The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to all of you in today's session. Today is the third in the 2020 series of ACCA's CPDs. During these testing times, ACCA, in line with our vision, has strived to bring you a key skill set development program. The first core element of this is by focusing on the local laws and taxation. And the third in the series is today's session on filing of an appeal to Commissioner Appeals. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. O Allah, open my heart and ease my task for me, and remove the impediments from my speech, so that they may understand what I say. Many of you would already be aware of me. Anyway, as a courtesy and for those who are attending a session for the first time, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Omer Zaheer Meer. I'm honored to be the chair of ACCA's MNP and Taxation Subcommittee. Professionally, I'm a fellow chartered certified accountant, a CFA charter holder, CFA, in addition to CFA, a CA, BFP, CPFA with anti-money laundering and fraud risk management specialization, and several other professional certifications, mostly from UK. Professionally, I also have 17 years plus fund of experience gained by working in top management positions, both abroad as well as in Pakistan. At the moment, I'm working as a managing partner at MLCC, that's Millennium Law and Corporate Company, the pioneer ACCA taxation and legal practicing firm in Pakistan. I also sit as a director on the board of several corporate entities and think tanks. Beside, I'm also an experienced trainer, having worked with esteemed organizations across corporate, public, and academia sectors. My portfolio includes having conducted mandatory promotional trainings of government officers at MPDD, professional trainings at the likes of National Bank, Habib Bank, MCB, PPCBL, IBP in collaboration with State Bank, Lahore Tax Bar, Karachi Tax Bar, Pakistan Tax Bar, Lahore Karachi Chambers, Bahria University, UAT, and last but not the least, our very own, our alma mater, ACCA. For those of you who do like to read, I'm a regular contributor to various national and international English language publications like Daily Nation, Daily Times, Pakistan Today, Express Tribune, and Blue Chip Journal. Most of my articles are also copied on my blog site, omerzahirmeer.wordpress.com, so you can read them there too. I'm honored to be a receiver of ACCA's Exceptional Public Value and National Advocacy Award. I'm a life member. Currently, second time serving chairman of Finance Economic Affairs Liaison Committee, and previously four-time chairman of Liaison Committee of Lahore Tax Bar Association. I'm also honored to be representing Pakistan on Global Tax Forum. I'm also a part of the editorial board of ACCA's Regional Professional Insights publication for the MESA region. I sit on the editorial board of the same. I'm also the director of several think tanks and related with several professional associations. I think that's enough about me. I'll just skip the next few slides. These are some of the key existing clients association list of academic, professional, and strengths. The firm's link, and this is a link of ACCA's profiling of MLCC, Millennium Law and Corporate Company, where it did a detailed report on MLCC being the pioneer practicing firm in Pakistan. Professional acknowledgement, I must state here that different legislation and reports, especially from FPR and some proprietary ones of our own firm, were used in the development of the presentation that you are about to see. Due to the limited time and the extensive volume of the topic we are covering, we have strived to cover the maximum possible content within the available time. The content coverage had to be prioritized and managed in order to suit the requirements and constraints of today's session. Now, I believe communication is very important and it's a two-way process, but in the time and era that we are living, hats off to ACCA for ensuring that there's a digital platform and we actually have this facility to conduct these CPDs for our members' benefit. However, obviously, it's not possible to have a two-way interaction, especially in the limited time that's at our disposal. But what we are going to do is we'll have regular question answer session. You can type in your questions in the question box that you have in your webinar panel. I would strive to answer as many questions as possible within the available time. If, however, any question is left even after the end of the session, you can connect with me later on. I'll be providing my contact details. The best way to approach me is through social media, LinkedIn being the most effective and the fastest one. If you do decide to message me by other means, please do introduce yourself before. So with this, let's begin today's session. So today's session is about filing of appeal against order of FPR officials. Before we proceed, because of the nature, okay, just bear with me. I've been given a message to close extra internet apps. Okay, guys. So before we proceed, would you like to share with me that how many of you have actually ever filed an appeal before or have seen how an appeal has been filed to the Commissioner Appeal or otherwise are aware of the process? Just type in your feedback in the Q&A box. Okay, Jawad has seen this before, but most of the people have never done that. Okay, that's a bit tricky because the expectation was that you guys at least have some idea, but never mind. I'll try to alter it and try to take everyone along. First of all, if you haven't already, have a look at the handout section. In addition to a copy of today's presentation, you have a copy of the updated income tax ordinance as well as the updated income tax rules. Please download all three. These are our gifts to you, and you would be needing them throughout the course of not only this session, but your professional endeavors. Okay, so basically what happens as far as the taxation process is concerned, FBR, Federal Board of Revenue, is the body responsible for looking after most of the taxation in the country, especially when we are talking about the federal taxations. Um, I have previously shared in the previous CPDs that post 18 amendment, the provincial authorities have been established under the purview of the provincial governments to look after the sales tax on services. But sales tax on goods, the income tax, that's still federal excise duty, etc. That's still in the domain of FBR, Federal Board of Revenue. Now, what happens is that at times FBR officials might issue a decision which is not correct or which is not cognizant of all the facts of the matter. Luckily, we are living in a country where a due process exists, and as per the process, everyone has a right to go through the appeal forums. Just imagine if that was not the case, any officer passing any order would become binding and you would just have to comply with it. And the amount of power that they would be then enjoying, the unlimited power, and not having a recourse would open how many possible doors of injustice and unfairness. So just like with any judicial and fair process, the process in Pakistan, the taxation process being subservient to the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, has ensured that there is a fair right of appeal for everyone, anyone that's an aggrieved person. In that regard, we are talking about the filing of appeals to Commissioner Appeal, and we'll be focusing on filing of the income tax appeals. The process of filing the sales tax appeal is largely similar. However, obviously, since you have to take guidance from the Sales Tax Act in that case, that is slightly different. So let's talk about filing of appeal, an income tax appeal with the Commissioner Appeals. The first section that's relevant in this regard is the section 127 of the Income Tax Ordinance 2001. So I want you all to open the Income Tax Ordinance file that's been shared with you. Okay, if you go in the index, I've opened this in front of you. You can see that on my screen, which is being shared. Part 3 of the Income Tax Ordinance deals with appeals, and Section 127 deals with the appeals to Commissioner Appeals. As you should be aware that if uh, an appeal is decided against you, or even if appeal is decided in your favor, depending on who is aggrieved, you or the FPR official, normally the commissioner, can then file an appeal to the appellate tribunal, and then an appeal reference can be filed to the High Court. The filing of appeal to the appellate tribunal is the topic of our CPD session for tomorrow, which would also be happening at the same time. And after tomorrow's session, we would be reverting back to the old timeline of 4 p.m. for our future sessions, inshallah. So let's begin with this. Instead of going through the presentation, I would like to actually focus on the actual ordinance and the laws and legislation, so you can see firsthand what the source document says and actually understand how things work. I would be running you through the law, explaining you the modalities, and then we'll also try to discuss the practicalities, and in between answer your Q&A. So are you ready? Pay attention. It might be one of the most important few hours of your professional careers. So this is page 211 of the ordinance that we have to approach, and there's a 24 pages difference due to index and etc. So this should be roughly 235. Yeah, here we go. So let's begin. Section 127, appeal to the Commissioner Appeal, says any person dissatisfied with any order passed by a commissioner or an officer of the Inland Revenue under Section 121, 122. Are you aware what they are? These are the best judgment assessments and revised assessments. 143, 144, charter ships, chartered airplanes, non-residents. 162, 170 refunds, 182 penalties, 205, or an orders under subsection 1 of section 161, holding a person to be personally liable to pay an amount of tax, or an order under clause F of subsection 3 of section 172, which deal with representatives, declaring a person to be the representative of a non-resident person, or an order giving effect to any finding or directions in any order made under this part by the Commissioner Appeals, Appellate Tribunal, High Court, or Supreme Court, or an order under Section 221. This deals with rectifying of the mistakes, refusing to rectify the mistake either in full or in part, as claimed by the taxpayer, or an order having the effect of the enhance having an effect of enhancing the assessment or reducing a refund or otherwise increasing the liability of the person, may prefer an appeal to the Commissioner Appeals against the order. So basically, this is all legal lingua and jargon. Whenever you are talking about any law, more so particularly about the taxation law, you have to make sure that you are very peculiar about the lingua, the language, the relevant sections, which sections are covered or not, and what are the implications. These all matter. So in this regard, we know that practically almost all the areas are covered. If you are aggrieved by any of these orders, any of the orders passed under these sections, which are the most common sections, you can file an appeal. So how can an appeal be filed? Let's have a look. No appeal under subsection 1 shall be made by a taxpayer against an order of assessment unless the taxpayer has paid the amount of tax due under subsection 1 of section 137. Okay, that's very interesting. So if you are already paying the liability under section 137, why are you not required to pay the liability against other section? Make sense? Let's find the answer to this. The reason is that section 137 deals with due date for payment of taxation. So you are basically not challenging the assessment per se, but you are basically having an issue with the due dates, etc. If, however, you are challenging an assessment, whether the amount of taxation is correct or not, be it the case in 121 or 122, or there is a problem with the refund values, 170, or there is a problem with the penalty that is levied onto you, 182, etc., then this is normally not the case. It's up to the commissioner appeal whether they put in any condition. Normally, in many cases, they put in a restriction that you have to deposit 25 or 10% of the tax liability. But in some cases where a taxpayer is challenging the entire assessment that this is baseless, then they have this argument that we don't believe any of the liabilities due, and it's next to impossible to get a refund from the department. So kindly don't oblige us to make a payment beforehand. And the commissioner appeals allow that. If the commissioner appeal does not allow that, then while the case is still pending before commissioner appeal, a stay of the same, in case it is being rejected or made conditional by the commissioner appeal, can be applied for and taken from, here comes the surprise, even a lot of practitioners might not be aware of this. I've seen that because I also train them, from the appellate tribunal, inland revenue. Yes, while the case might still be pending before commissioner appeal, you can file just a stay and get it from the appellate tribunal if your stay application has been rejected by the commissioner appeal. So subsection 3 deals with an appeal under subsection 1. Subsection 3 basically tells us how should the appeal be filed. So it should be in the prescribed form. What is the prescribed form? Let me show you. Can you all open the second file of the income tax laws, income tax rules under these two law files that have been shared, because we'll be referring to it now. I'll give you all like 40 seconds to do that. Please open it if you haven't already. Okay, I believe everyone would have already downloaded by now if they hadn't previously. So you can see that Chapter 12 deals with appeal, and we are going to open page number 94 for the prescribed form of appeal to the commissioner appeal. And this is the income tax rules. Okay, so now you can see on your screens, this is the prescribed form of appeal that you have to fill when applying for an appeal to the Commissioner Appeals. So you have the appeal number and appeal date. This would be filled in by the Commissioner Appeals Office. You'll leave that blank. You'll just write which zone you are applying to. So basically, Commissioner Appeals are divided amongst various zones, and they have cases being assigned normally as per either the industry or alphabetically or both, and this keeps on changing from time to time. So you have to find that out. If you are not aware, you can approach the Commissioner Appeals Office and find it out from there or from FPR directly. Amount of appeal fee that you have paid, will cover this in a bit, but whatever fee you have paid, you would fill it here. The date of payment of appeal would be put in here. The amount of tax demand based on return of income would be filled in here. Date of payment of any amount of tax that's been made would be put in here. Amount of tax levied additionally with a requirement of tax payment for filing of an appeal met or not would be mentioned here, either yes or no. National tax number of the appellant, the NTN would be mentioned, or if it's an individual, you can simply write the CNIC. The tax year. Tax year means not the tax year in which you are filing the appeal, but the tax year to which the matter belongs. So it might be that FPR gave you a decision in 2020 April relating to a matter that belongs to tax year 2016, right? So you would put 2016 in the tax year, not 2020 or 2021. If that's the case later on. And then you'll put in the zone of the FPR commissioner. So just like commissioner appeals, not it's expected that you are aware of this, but just for the sake of completion, FPR's commissioners are also divided administratively to deal with various zones so that cases can be divided amongst them. So whichever jurisdiction you fall into with regard to the FPR officials, you'll mention that here. Then you'll have the name of the appellant's status, whether it's an individual, AOP, or company. You can be the appellant yourself, or you can be the authorized representative of the appellant, or you can be their attorney or a legal consultant. Then you'll put in the address of the appellant, the name of the authorized representative, if any, and then put in the status of the authorized representative, that in which capacity they are representing the client, whether it's an authorized representative, it's an ITP, advocate, etc., etc. Then you'll write the postal address, the address where you want any notice to be sent to, and then name of the commissioner who passed the order, at the CIT code, if you are aware of that, the income that was declared by you, and the income that was assessed. Okay. Then you'll put in your name and your designation. You'll sign in the appeal, and then similarly, you'll put in a few figures here. What was the income tax that was assessed, any penalty that was imposed, what is the tax demand that was created. This appeal should be filed in duplicate. The appeal should be accompanied by the notice of demand and the copy of the assessment appealed against, as the case may be. And you also have to attach the grounds of appeal separately. They have given 4 rows, but it's normally not possible. You can simply write as enclosed. And normally detailed grounds of appeal are prepared depending on the nature of the case. Then brief claim in appeal or prayer, you have to give this kind of an oath and undertaking that you haven't whatever you are stating in the appeal and grounds of appeal is true to the best of your knowledge and belief. You are competent to file the appeal in your capacity, and that a true copy of the form of appeal has been sent by a registered post or courier services or delivered in person to the officer concerned, so that they are also aware that this appeal has been lodged. And then you'll sign, put in your name and CNIC number, and your form of appeal would be almost completed. So who can file the form of appeal? If you are an individual, you can file it. In case of a company, the principal officer can file it, or in case of an AOP, a member or partner can sign this. And then you can see that this is a portion for the official use. They'll just assign the date, the ward, register number, date of appeal, who it was assigned to, which CIT appeal, etc., etc. And you'll be given this section, the appeal acknowledgement receipt. So this is the standard format, but there are a few things which are important to remember. In addition to this form of appeal, as I mentioned, you'll be filing the grounds of appeal. Along with that, you would also enclose the order that is being challenged. You'll also enclose the bank challan of the appeal fee that you have paid, depending on what category you fall in. Similarly, you would also sign an affidavit and undertaking that you have not previously filed an appeal elsewhere. So that's all in all a basic overview of the form in terms of the form of appeal that is filed. So let's go back to the income tax ordinance. So again, coming back to subsection 3, the appeal shall be in the prescribed form verified in the prescribed manner, which we have seen, state precisely the grounds upon which the appeal is made, be accompanied by the prescribed fee specified in subsection 4, which we'll see in a bit, and be lodged with the Commissioner Appeal within the time set out in subsection 5. So the fee in case of an individual is 200 rupees. The fee in case of an Hello. The fee in case of an individual or AOP which is not a company is 200 rupees, and the fee in case of a company is 1000 rupees. That is if the appeal is not against an assessment. If the appeal is against an assessment, the standard fee is simply 1000. So those of you who are not regularly dealing might be confused. What do you mean appeal against assessment or not? Look, an appeal can be on against the various orders. The nature of orders can be different, as we initially uh, discussed in subsection 1 of this section. So if the appeal is against the penalty that is imposed, that's not an assessment. If the appeal is against whether you are authorized representative or not, that's not against an assessment. So if the appeal is against an assessment, that's a different ball game and different fee applies. If it's against any other order, then different fee apply. So section 4 subsection 4a would deal with the cases of appeals against assessment, be it by company, individual, or AOP, and subsection 4b would deal with the cases where we are dealing with appeals against orders other than assessments, and then we have 1 and 2 depending on whether you are a company or not a company. And what is the timeline? How long can you take to file an appeal to the Commissioner Appeal? Normally, as a rule of thumb, just remember that where the appeal relates to any assessment or penalty, the date of service of the notice of demand relating to the said assessment or penalty, as the case may be, has to be taken into consideration, and you have to file the appeal within 30 days of the date of service of that notice. And in any other case, the date on which the order to be appealed against is served on to you is the relevant date, and you can file an appeal to the Commissioner Appeal within 30 days. Now, it happens at time. We are all human. Several issues happen. Um, there might be a scenario that maybe your accountant got sick. God forbid, maybe some other crisis happened and you couldn't file the appeal within 30 days. So the time limit is now part. What can you do now? Can you still file an appeal? What do you think, guys? Give me your feedback in the Q&A box, please. Amara is saying still file with penalty. Hamza is saying yes. Sufyan is saying yes. Amin is saying yes. Tariq is saying okay. Good, 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 good. Generally, your answer is correct. Well, the law does not penalize you for exceptional circumstances. Filing an appeal is your right if you have a genuine reason and you can prove that reason, and the Commissioner Appeal is satisfied that there was sufficient cause, a genuine cause, to prevent you from lodging the appeal within the prescribed time period. Then upon application in writing by you, by the appellant, the Commissioner Appeal can admit an appeal even after the expiration of the period specified in subsection 5. Now, a couple of things. I am just noticing that this file that you have received of the income tax ordinance is till 30th June 2018. Basically, what happens is that every year when the budget is approved, this ordinance and all the relevant legislations are updated. It's largely the similar one, but on FPR's website, you would have the most latest version available. There wasn't any material change in the area that we are dealing, so you shouldn't be worried about this. It's largely relevant, but I would still advise you to download the latest version from FPR's website. So I'm sharing the screen and also showing you the procedure to download. Please pay attention. If you are not aware, you can have a look here. So this is fpr.gov.pk, and you can click on ordinance here, and then you can click on the income tax ordinance here, and then you can click on this income tax ordinance, which has been updated till 31st December 2019. I just mentioned to you it's normally updated after the budget, but since we had the second amendment tax laws or tax law second amendment ordinance on which we had a CPD session earlier in the week, and that came in December, so the ordinance was again updated on 1st December 2019. So I would advise you to download this version and actually use this. Let me open this here for you. So you'll see the format is likely same, only the changes are incorporated within it. So there you go. Download this. Similarly, you would also have the latest income tax rules available, which have been updated. I think the file that we are dealing with is 10th February 2017. It's the same one. However, a change is apparently not made within the rules. The form that we were looking at was slightly amended. It's likely the same. I will show you the updated form. There isn't much difference. Likely it's the same, but there are a few minor differences which you should be aware of. I would be showing you that and covering that in a bit. But let's just take a quick break here for the Q&A and answer any questions that you have about the session till now. Nizam, are you with me?
I am with you, sir.
Okay, can you please help us by asking the questions?
Okay, so I'll be reading out the most recent questions and going back. It's Akbar Panjani asking just a basic question. What is the difference between...
Hang on. I would suggest you to do the other way around, because otherwise we'll end up missing the initial questions. Just go through the earliest questions first and then come on to latest. And if you see any question that has already been answered, just skip that.
Great, sir. Okay, it's Nabil Ibrahim. He's asking, Omer Bhai, please help me to understand, being a tax professional, difference between Income Tax Ordinance 2001 amended up to 30th/6/2018 as provided by you today, and Income Tax Ordinance 2001 amended up to 31st/12/2019 as available at FPR site.
Very good question, Nabil, and something we expect from competent tax professionals. And I'm proud that our ACCA members are coming more and more onto the tech scene. I think I've just answered your question, and I explained that the version is upgraded at every change, be it by any legislation interimly or normally after the budget, and that the most latest version is available here, which we have just downloaded and referred to. So I think your question has already been answered. Next one.
Muhammad Khurram, why would a person pay additional tax when the provisions of Section 140 allows an automatic stay by paying 10% of amount in dispute?
I'm not getting you. Which additional tax? Are you referring to the additional tax that is levied by the Commissioner Appeal? If that's the case, the thing is, when you are filing an appeal, when you are filing for stay, you are basically invoking the jurisdiction, the judicial jurisdiction. And if a certain condition is imposed, then you have to normally comply with that condition. As I've mentioned during my discussion on the relevant area, normally the commissioners actually put down the 10% requirement, but there's nothing holding them to that 10% limit. They can even prescribe that depending on the cases upwardly. It's quite common now. The commissioners normally require you to deposit 25% of the assessment. So if you are invoking their jurisdiction, then you have to comply with that, because the thing is legally this, that once you have applied for the appeal with Commissioner Appeal, you have to separately get a stay from them. If you can't get a stay from them, then the and if you have filed the appeal, then the FPR official is allowed to still pursue you for the recovery. Um, it's a bit dodgy concept because normally with the judicial processes, one would assume that once the matter has been appealed against and the matter is sub judice, then automatically it should be considered that the matter is stayed. However, there are explicit provision within the taxation laws, within the income tax ordinance, that state otherwise. So whether you like it or not, that's the law of the land and something we have to comply with. Next one.
Ali Aslam is asking, please briefly elaborate the procedure to obtain NTN for an individual
Ali,
as
I would
well
love
as for the
to, but
business
not
owner.
relevant to today's session. And by the way, we have covered that in several CPD sessions before. Um, Please make an effort, go to YouTube, go to my channel, just write my name spellings, you'll have it. And there are sessions there, recorded sessions, absolutely free, complimentarily available, which explains this in process in detail. Even in yesterday's session, I shared links of FPR's recording on the same. Please go through that. If you are still unsure, send me a message on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to guide you, but I'm sorry, it's not today's topic. Next one.
Uh, Akbar Panjani, what is the difference between Act, Ordinance, and Rules?
Akbar, that's a good question, and we have discussed this several times. Again, not a relevant topic to today's question, but since it's an interesting question, I'll briefly tell you. Act or ordinance is basically the main body of the law that tells you what the law is. Act is normally approved by the parliament. Ordinance comes by promulgation through the presidency, and then there's a process that it has to be basically ratified by the parliament later on. Anyway, that's not relevant. What you asked, let's come back to that. Ordinance or act is the main body of the law, and the rules deal with the practicalities of how to actually do that. Not a very relevant example, and there's no comparison, but just so we can understand something that relates to our culture, I'll try to explain through that. So, for example, we have been ordained in the Holy Quran, which has no comparison with anything else, that a Muslim is asked to say the prayer, but you don't know how to say the prayer or how many times to say the prayer. By looking alone at Holy Quran, you can't find that out. You have to go through the actual details about that through the ahadith. So it's a similar concept, though the examples are wildly different. And once again, there is no comparison. The ordinance and the act basically guides you what the main law is. What is the law dealing with the subject under consideration? The rules tell you the practicalities, how to go about that. I hope that answers the question. Next one.
Bilal Ansar, what is CIT code?
Commissioner Income Tax Code. You don't have to worry about that now. You simply put in the relevant zone and they normally allocate that themselves. Next one.
Further to this, he asks, can you please explain 127B briefly?
Okay, we'll do that again in a bit. Next one.
Mohammed Sufyan, a private limited company received this notice. Notice under section 176 for withholding taxes paid/deducted. Later they received show cause notice U/S 18219 of the Income Tax Ordinance 2001 for imposition tax penalty for tax year 2018. Which one should be replied by IRS?
Both. You have been given a notice under, previously he said 176. Before section 182, which section did you just read out?
It was 176, withholding taxes paid.
Yeah. So basically what happened, I'm just answering this question as a courtesy, but please, I've been requested again and again not to answer to specific queries because the time is limited and then we end up in a situation where we can't answer some of the relevant questions. So please don't ask specific questions here. If you want to have any consultation or discussion, send me a message later on LinkedIn. But I'll just answer this one as a courtesy, and then after this, I won't be answering any specific questions. in line with the instructions of ACCA. So you received a notice under 176, which was the notice to obtain information or evidence, and you have to reply that. 182 deals with the notice to apply penalty, whether they relate to the same cases or different, and why the penalty has been levied on you would it would depend on these factors and a few other, that how would you respond that and what would you do that. But the answer to your question, which one should we respond to? Both, my friend. And remember one thing, whenever you are dealing with FPR, I'll give you a golden advice. Always remember that. Never, never, never leave anything unresponded. Always ensure that your response is properly received and is on file. And if you file a response by iris, take a copy out of that. Although for practicality, what I recommend, if it's possible for you logistically, then actually send the copy to the relevant officer's office and get a receiving physically and put a copy in your file. I know it's a very odd thing to say in this age and technology, and especially by someone like me who champions the cause of technology. But we have had instances, unfortunately, before where databases of iris just got lost, and it caused a lot of hardship to the people who didn't have a copy of that. And then there is a certain mechanism when you file the response through FPR offices or online. But if you can't file the response going to the office, and more so nowadays when all this situation of the COVID-19 is going on, and with social distancing and closure of offices, it's become much more challenging, then I suggest that print out the copies of the responses that you submitted and the notices, and keep a soft copy as well as a hard copy for your records. I hope that answers the question. Next one.
Faisal Aziz, so why would a person file an appeal against an order passed by Supreme Court?
No person would file an appeal against the order of a Supreme Court. They would file an appeal, a reference against Supreme Court's judgment. Could you elaborate your question, what you are trying to refer to? Next one.
Please share any practical example with documents of commercial appeal by any company. Ali Hassan Dar.
Ali, I haven't taken permission from any client, but I have this in my mind. I will try to actually share some documents by taking out the client's name so that you can actually have an idea of the practical aspects. Next one.
Mudassir Abbas Kazmi, an individual closed his business in year 2013 and for year 2014 to file. An individual closed his business in year 2013 and for year 2014 to 2019, filed a return as salaried person. He applied for deregistration from business and registered as salaried person. FPR told the sales return, tax return was not filed, so pay the penalty. Though he was not aware of sales tax registration and FPR compulsory registered him for sales tax. Kindly tell how to sort out this issue currently working as a salaried person.
Yes, it is unfortunately a practice that is quite normal, and you are not alone. There are many cases. Send me a message on my LinkedIn ID. It's Umar Zaheer Meer, and I will get back to you. Next one.
Faisal Aziz again, why wouldn't a person file an appeal against an order passed by Supreme Court as mentioned in section 127?
Hang on, where is it mentioned that a person file an appeal against Supreme Court order? I think I know what he got confused about. Let me see if that's what he's referring to. Okay, let's quickly have a look. It's Faisal Azim?
Aziz.
Aziz, okay. I think he's referring to the subsection 1, which dealt with 172. Faisal, I think you are referring to this area. You might have got confused by this. right? Can you just confirm that I've understood your question right? Just write yes in the chat box if that's the case.
Yes, he confirmed. He said
Okay.
yes.
So you have to read this, my friend, properly. Look, what it's saying here, we are dealing about the order under clause F of subsection 3 of section 172, declaring a person to be a representative of a non-resident person, or an order giving effect to any finding or directions in any order made under this part by Commissioner Appeal, Appellate Tribunal, High Court, or Supreme Court. So it's not saying that you are actually going against an order of the Supreme Court. It's saying if somebody is interpreting a Supreme Court order in a wrong way, implying that you are someone that the court has not declared, then against that order of the FPR, you can file an appeal. Try to understand this. It might be the case that the officer says that under judgment XYZ of Supreme Court dated XYZ, you are liable to this thing, when the order does not state that. So it is his interpretation. So you can actually challenge his interpretation to the Commissioner Appeal that his interpretation is wrong. The Honorable Supreme Court did not say that, but they actually said ABC instead of XYZ. So remember this, higher court's order cannot be challenged at a lower court. That's not possible. However, higher court's order is open to interpretation if that is already not been done. I hope that clarifies the question that you have. Next one.
Shehbaz Akbar, any amendment in Act authentic by a notification of Commissioner or should be approved from Parliament?
I lost you. Any amendment should be authentic?
Any amendment in Act is authentic by notification from Commissioner or should be approved from Parliament?
Oh, no. Commissioners don't have any power to amend the laws or regulations. It all comes from the parliamentary process. The only exception is the ordinance, which is then again approved by the parliament, and or it has to be approved by the parliament in the first instance to become an act of the parliament. The parliament has given the power to FPR to make certain rules on the ongoing basis, but since that has already been approved as an act of the parliament, the FPR derives its power from that approved act. The commissioners don't have any power to make a change and put it down that now this is the law of the land. They are simply the officers to enforce the law of the land with regard to the revenue services. Next.
Shoaib Ghani, what is the recourse if CIR appeals is neither granting or rejecting stay against the demand and main hearing is not scheduled yet?
Federal Tax Ombudsman. Next one.
How to file the appeal? Is it through online or physically by going to Commissioner's office?
Unfortunately,
Saqub
physically by
Ansari.
going to the commissioner office. And who asked this question?
Saqub Ansari.
Okay, good question, Mr. Ansari. Next one.
Sir, I have joined the session a bit late. Can you briefly, shortly explain why we need to appeal to Commissioner?
Why we need to appeal to commissioner? Okay, briefly speaking, if there is any adverse order by FPR against you, you have the judicial right and you have the forums of appeal to challenge that order if you believe that is the course for you to do. And Faisal has thanked us, so you should mention that. You know how that motivates? Okay, carry on, Nizam.
Okay, so we have Muhammad Sami asking, the appeal be filed after tax paid section 137 means tax under self-assessment by taxpayer. Does this also include revised assessment if orders passed or is it 10 to 25% of the order assessment? Kindly clarify.
Who is asking this question?
Mohammed Sami.
Sami, I just discussed this in quite a bit of detail. Anyway, I'll repeat that for you again. No, that's not the case for revised assessment. If you are filing an appeal against a revised assessment or amended assessment or a best judgment assessment, then it's up to the commissioner. They might put a condition of 10%. They might put no condition at all. They might put a higher condition. And if you are not happy with the condition they have put, then you can file an appeal against this decision on stay to the appellate tribunal. I hope that answers. Next one.
Umar Saeed. Hi Umar, can you please share any ground realities while sharing appeals physically at FPR? Any
Yeah,
complications
sure.
or FPR staff attitude?
Any?
Complications or FPR staff attitude?
Okay, sure. First of all, Umar, I would like to welcome you. It's good to have you in the session here. Can you actually open Umar's mic? I would like him to ask this question directly.
Sure.
Hi, Omer. Hi, Omer. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope you can hear me.
Ji, assalamu alaikum. I can hear you perfectly. Please go ahead.
Welcome, Salam, Omer bhai. So I wanted to ask about the ground realities that we might be facing there. I recently I had to have some procedures around the Sindh Board of Revenue and faced like many difficulties. You might guess. So in that perspective, I was asking if you can share any ground realities that we might be aware of before going in there, or then delegating it to some third party.
Okay, sure. That's a good question. I will be sharing a few templates of actual real life cases. I might even share a template of a case that we won, a very major one, but obviously I would take out the client details for confidentiality. Look, there are two aspects to the thing. Umar very rightly pointed out that unfortunately there are some practices, some untoward practices when you go at these various forums. However, remember your command of the law, legislation, facts of the case, and the legal paraphrase puts you in a very good condition. They reduce your dependency on those untoward activities. However, when you'll go to any of these appeals offices, remember that one of the prime complaint of taxpayer is the harassment and something that is referred to as I don't know whether I should say that on screen, but chai pani, something like that. So, as a professional, I always advise you to try not to get indulged in these things, but you have to be very careful. If you are a professional yourself, you have to be on top of your game. If you're a businessman who is hiring a professional, you have to make sure that the professional you are hiring not only has the best possible competencies, but has the best possible moral compass too. And they are actually fighting for and looking after your interests. So that should make the practical dealings there much more easier. If you are a new professional in the field, I would advise you to actually go to these forums a few times without even filing any case, even before you have to. Just see their working, just see the various people, get to know who sits there, who sits where, who deals with what is their working practice. Just go to the hearings, especially to the tribunal hearings are normally open. You can go there. The commissioner appeal hearings are normally not open, but you can still see the offices, the staff, meet them by appointment. That I'm just a consultant at XYZ and I wanted to meet you, and if you have any point in mind, you can discuss that. You would see this would bring you a lot of positive benefits in practical terms. And although this sounds really easy, but it would require a lot of time and effort for you, from you, and that time and effort that you would invest would actually bring a lot of benefits to you as well. So that would be my few cents on this. But as I'll be sharing the actual templates of practical appeals that are normally filed, I would be sharing about a few more intro cases. The next question, please. I hope that answers you, Omer.
Omar says, thank you so much. Amara Sheikh, if a stay is required through appellate tribunal and it expires, then will the case be remanded back to Commissioner Appeals, or extension for stay shall be applied?
Can you unmute Amara, please? Let her ask the question. Welcome, Amara.
For sure, sir. Amara will now be able to speak.
Assalamu alaikum, Amara. You can ask your question now.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank
My
you.
question is, if a stay is acquired through appellate tribunal and it expires, then will the case would be remanded back to the Commissioner Appeals, or an extension shall be applied? Because normally the way is to apply the extension, but it just delays the matter further.
And can we assume that your case was decided from Commissioner Appeal and it is now with the appellate tribunal, or you are simply referring to an instance where you have only applied against Commissioner Appeal's stay decision?
No, it is with the appellate tribunal and the stay has expired.
Okay, in that case, you have two scenarios. Normally, the validity of the stay is 180 days. You have asked a question which is actually the subject of tomorrow's CPD session. We'll be discussing this specific point in detail, but never mind. You'll have, briefly speaking, two scenarios. Number one, if 180 days have not expired, you don't even need to apply for an extension of the stay depending on the wording of the stay. If the stay is worded in a specific manner, then you might need to apply for an extension of the stay. If, however, 180 days have been expired, what you need to do, we'll discuss that in tomorrow's session. Okay?
All right. I'll discuss this further tomorrow then.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next one.
Muhammad Rashid, can a taxpayer file appeal before FTO for non-processing or delay in processing of income tax refund, or should he prefer appeal before CIR appeals?
Well, you have both forums available. Of course, you can file at FTO. The difference is that normally the FTO takes a bit more time. The perception is this, that the FTO takes a bit more time, and then there are ramifications of your ongoing matters at FPR. So there's no one size fits all. That's a professional judgment that you will have to make depending on the nature of the matter, and it would vary from case to case. Next one.
Muhammad Ijaz, sir, is there any appeal against FPR staff harassment? Sir, I'm sure you are aware of this attitude by FPR staff.
A very pragmatic question. Can you unmute Ijaz, please? I would like to hear his story, actually.
All right, sir. Ijaz, you will be now able to speak. Please ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Ijaz sir. Can you hear us? I think Ijaz is probably left, right? Are you there?
He has self-muted himself. He won't be able to speak.
Can you guide him how to unmute himself? If he can hear, that's good. Otherwise, I'll simply respond and move on.
Sure, he'll be having an icon up at the right top corner. You just have to click that icon and he'll be able to speak. Okay. So you are now able to speak.
Walaikum assalam, Ejaz Sahab. We thought you left us.
Sir, no, sir, I'm going on. Sir, my question was in the perspective, if you have a chain of stores and you have in two or three names registered by in two or three entities. If you got an appeal from one entity, they go to other your other outlets and make the staff. You think they can make a 240B or they can confiscate the data. I was asking in this perspective.
Okay, there are two aspects to it. One, the technical aspect that would depend on many things, the specifics of the case that you can send me later on LinkedIn. The other one that you actually typed in, whether there is any appeal against FPR staff harassment. There is no appeal, but there is a complaint process. There are actually multiple complaint process now. You can complain directly to the officer of the officer you are dealing with. So, for example, the assistant commissioner or additional commissioner or the inspector is harassing you. So you can file a complaint against them to their superior, the commissioner. But the practical problem normally is that they don't dare do anything without commissioner's knowledge. Okay. So you can understand that's a catch-22. The second way that you can do is you can actually file a complaint of harassment to the tax ombudsman, and the tax ombudsman can then call them up, and they have a good track record. But you have to analyze how that would impact your equation with FPR. The third one is the Prime Minister portal. You can put a complaint there that somebody is harassing you or is asking bribe from you, etc., etc. And what happens is that they send that complaint directly to the board, and they ask, depending on the nature, either the board or the chief commissioner, and ask them to submit a report. And there is a lot of movement in whichever department the complaint is sent to. It might still be that the officers concerned might try to cover up or give an excuse. If that is the case, you always have the tax ombudsman to go to. So I think your best scenario would be to submit a complaint to the Prime Minister portal and see how it goes. And if you don't feel satisfied by the response, then file a complaint with the tax ombudsman. But do consult your financial advisor, your tax consultant, your legal consultant. Also take their opinion because they would be aware of the specifics. If you have none, send me a message on LinkedIn. The specifics, obviously, they are confidential and we are short of time. So don't share them here. Send me on LinkedIn in confidence and I'll advise you accordingly. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next one, Nizam.
Shoaib Ghani, are there any repercussions if we prefer to go to High Court instead of FTO for the grievance of non-disposal of stay by CIR appeals?
Shoaib, you can't just go to the High Court like that. In High Court, normally the point of law is discussed. It's not just a normal appellate forum. So unfortunately, you can't directly go just because the stay is being delayed by the Commissioner Appeal. I am 99.99% sure, because 100% is only Almighty God, that High Court will not entertain your application in such a scenario. Unfortunate, but the practicalities. I hope that answers. Any other question?
None, we have answered all questions, sir.
Really?
Move on.
Well done. Congratulations.
Okay, we have one another question just came in by Sayyid Omer Akhtar. With reference to subsection 5A and B of section 127, what is the term noticed is served?
Notice is served, you have to see through the rules as well, but I'll just give you a quick practical idea. If FBR has sent the notice by any recorded mean to your last held address, notice is served. If FBR has delivered it to you by hand, the notice is served. Hope that answers. And we'll continue with your questions. in a little while. I think we gave more than half hour to the questions and answered all the questions in detail. So now let's go back to the mother body of the presentation, the legislation, and then we'll come back for some more Q&A. Okay, so let's move on to section 128, which deals with the procedure in the appeal. The Commissioner Appeals shall give notice of the day fixed for the hearing of the appeal to the appellant and the Commissioner against whose order the appeal has been made. So basically what happens that when you file the appeal, a copy of the appeal is also sent by you before filing the appeal to the relevant officer or the Commissioner's office. So they have that. Then the Commissioner Appeal also intimate them that the appeal has been filed, and both you and the relevant commissioner's office is intimated of the date of hearing. Where in a particular case the commissioner appeals is of the opinion that recovery of tax levied under this ordinance shall cause undue hardship to the taxpayer, he, after affording opportunity of being heard to the commissioner against whose order appeal has been made, may stay the recovery of such tax for a period not exceeding 30 days in aggregate. So 30 days stay can be given against any assessment if the commissioner appeal believes its recovery will cause undue hardship to the taxpayer. The commissioner appeal, after affording opportunity of being heard to the commissioner against whose order appeal has been made, may stay the recovery of such tax for a further period of 30 days, provided that the order on appeal shall be passed within the said period of 30 days. So the commissioner appeal can grant a stay of maximum can grant a series of stay of maximum 60 days. After 60 days, they can't grant a stay. Then you have to go to the appellate tribunal or the other forums. The commissioner appeals may adjourn the hearing of the appeal from time to time. Adjourn means defer. The commissioner appeals may, before the hearing of an appeal, allow an appellant to file any new ground of appeal not specified in the grounds of appeal already filed by the appellant, where the commissioner appeal is satisfied that the omission of the ground from the form of appeal was not willful or unreasonable. Why? Because then the other party would also need some time to study them. The commissioner appeal may, before disposing of an appeal, call for such particulars as the commissioner appeal may require respecting the matter arising in the appeal, or cause further inquiry to be made by the commissioner. Though that's rarely done, but this is an authority that resides with the commissioner appeal, that the commissioner appeal can call for additional information or direct the commissioner to even make further inquiries. It is normally done in something that is referred to as remand back, where ex parte decisions are done by FPR officials, and the commissioner appeal then decree that since audio alterum partem has been violated, so the case has been remanded back and you need to go through the process properly and come to a proper conclusion. Next one, the commissioner appeal shall not admit any documentary material or evidence which was not produced before the commissioner unless the commissioner appeal is satisfied that the appellant was prevented by the sufficient cause from producing such material or evidence before the commissioner. Just like any other judicial forum, it makes sense if you think about it. A judicial forum has to be just, and has to be just to the both parties, not just one aggrieved party or the other party, be it the government officials or the taxpayer. It has to keep a balance. So just like other judicial forums, these requirements try to ensure that a judicious process is maintained. So section 129, last but not the least, decision of the appeals. So decision in appeal, in disposing of an appeal lodged under section 127, the commissioner appeal may make an order to either confirm. So the commissioner appeal can simply state that no, that order was right, your appeal is wrong. So the order may be confirmed. The commissioner appeal can modify the order, that okay, some things are right, some things are not right, they need to be modified. They can even annul the assessment order, mean cancel that, after examining such evidence as required by him respecting the matter arising in the appeal, or causing such further inquiries to be made as he deems fit, or in any other case makes such order as the Commissioner Appeal thinks appropriate and fit. However, there are some decisions by superior courts that limit the powers of Commissioner Appeals in certain scenarios. Anyway, that's not the topic for today's discussion. So subsection 2 of section 129 states that the Commissioner Appeals shall not increase the amount of any assessment order or decrease the amount of any refund unless the appellant has been given a reasonable opportunity of showing cause against such an increase or decrease as the case may be. So do remember that this can also happen where as the result of an appeal, any changes made in the assessment of an AOP or a new assessment of an AOP is considered to be made, the Commissioner Appeals may authorize the Commissioner to amend accordingly any assessment order made on a member of the association, and the time limit in subsection 2 of section 122 shall not apply to making such amended assessments. So that's very focused on AOP. As soon as practicable, after deciding an appeal, the Commissioner Appeal shall serve his order on the appellant and the Commissioner, provided that such order shall be passed not later than 120 days from the date of filing of an appeal or within an extended period of 60 days for reasons to be recorded in writing by the Commissioner Appeal. So now you can see that subsection 4 of section 129 bounds the Commissioner Appeal to normally decide the appeal within 120 days or maximum 60 more 180 days with reasons in writing, but practically, unfortunately, it takes a lot longer in many cases. Capacity issues. Provided further that any period during which the hearing of an appeal is adjourned at the request of the appellant or is postponed due to any appeal or proceedings or stay order, remand or alternative dispute resolution proceedings or for any other reason shall be excluded in the computation of the aforementioned period. Those period would not be counted in it. Now what I'm going to do is I promise someone to repeat subsection B of I think section 127. So I'm going to repeat that for one of the attendees who requested, and then I'll take a few of your questions, and then I'll show you an actual appeal to a Commissioner Appeal that was won. So let's do that. So basically the crux of 127, you would have the recording available, is that any person who is dissatisfied by an order passed by a commissioner or an officer of Inland Revenue under these relevant section can file an appeal to the Commissioner Appeal within the prescribed time period. And if they are dealing with section 137 subsection 1, they have to actually deposit the tax liability beforehand, and an appeal shall be in the prescribed format, verified in that manner, state the grounds, accompanied by the precise fee, and lodged within the specific time period, which is normally 30 days from the date of the order. So I hope that is clear enough to us all. Now, before showing you the actual appeal, I would like to take any questions that you may have. Nizam Sahab.
Sir.
Let's continue, my friend.
So starting with Umar Ghaffar Khan, kindly conduct a session on sales tax returns and withholding statements.
Okay, sir, send me an email, a message on LinkedIn, or send an email to Members Affairs directly, and inshallah we'll plan one. Next one.
Amara, if an order is sent for recovery of tax and appeal is applied, is it necessary to attach the physically received order, or an IRS copy can be attached as well?
If you haven't received the physical copy, then you can enclose the IRS copy. But it's always advisable, if you have time, write to the officer that you haven't received the physical copy and that they should provide you one. That would also help you in the appeal process because of the time limit and all those things. Actually putting on record that you never received the physical copy would work in your benefit. Next one.
Syed Omer Akhtar, in continuation with my earlier question regarding notice is being served. What if the notice is served by FPR but not physically received by taxpayer for any reason? In that case, does it imply that notice is being served and FPR starts counting days, or physical service of notice is mandatory? Thanks.
Physical service is mandatory in the sense that many people do not have access to the internet and can state that they did not receive it. So normally FPR is very peculiar in sending this. I'll be very surprised if you can show me a case where they only sent a notice to Iris to you in your Iris ID and never sent you a physical notice. It might be that they have an old address, an outdated address, some other issue, but that is normally the practice that they almost always send out a physical copy. Next one.
Okay, Mohammed Sufyan, and I'll ask the attendees to come up with their questions. So Sufyan asks, sorry, my question isn't
Nizam,
related to today's session.
hang on. You know what? We have been so wonderful. We are answering the questions more quickly than they are coming up. What can the attendees do if they don't have any questions? Carry on.
Great. Mohammed Sufyan, not relevant, but to current circumstances, FPR issued notice to those who did not file their return for the financial year 2019, asked to file return within 1 month. 6th, 7th April is due date. Is there any chance of adjournment, extension like monthly sales tax return?
Sufyan. Okay, you know what? Unmute Sufyan. I want to speak to him.
Sure, sir. Sufyan, you will be able to speak now. Please go ahead with your question.
Assalamu alaikum, Sufyan Sahab.
So it seems that Sufyan is not around, but is still in the session, but is not around.
That's fine.
So
I'll
moving
then answer his question anyway. The thing is, if you are aware your question is not relevant, better to avoid that. Anyway, since we have some time and as a courtesy, I'll answer the question. Well, I think it's my personal opinion that there have been enough in extensions and you should actually try to file the tax return. As far as extension is concerned, there won't be any extension. The time limit has already been passed. The deadline was 28 February after a lot of extensions. So you are already late. The date that FPS has stated, if you do not file till that date, you can still file after that. But after that date, before your filing, if FPR takes an action, that can result in proceedings against you. So my advice to you, my friend, would be to please file it before the date of the notice. Next one.
Mohammed Ijaz. So what should be the course of action if the commissioner appeal is not decided until 180 days?
Well, you can file an appeal to the appellate tribunal, or you can simply file a complaint with the tax ombudsman, Ijazat.
Abdul Rahman, if FPR has sent notice through courier but not received by us due to any reason, will it be categorized under delivered notice by FPR?
By FPR, yes, but you can always contest that, Abdul Rahman, if you have not received that. Then FPR would need to prove that they actually sent to you and show the evidence, the receiving, the receipt, everything.
Okay, Amara, comment. FPR staff usually takes a receiving too while delivering the order, but lately, yes, an example has come in my experience where order did not arrive physically but only in IRS.
Yes, Amara, not one, many time, because many time they use the postal services, many time the address is wrongly typed, so these things happen. But they do make sure that they send out a physical copy. It does not mean that it would always reach the taxpayer. And this lacuna in the system is normally used to justify the time bar issue with regard to the appeals too. So we have answered all the questions.
Yes, Usman Yusuf is within request saying have a session on income tax ordinance. Couple of years it was conducted. Please arrange again.
That's a
And
very
that's
good
his
suggestion,
request.
Osman. We were having this discussion. I was having this discussion with the regional head of member affairs too, and he also agreed with this suggestion. And the taxation committee also believed that we should have that. So, inshallah, we will plan this and we will try our best to conduct them again for you.
Fine, sir.
Okay, guys, now
So
bear
we
with
have
me for
Faisal.
1 minute. Nizam, hold on, please. Now bear with me, guys, for 1 minute. I've just frozen the screen and I'm about to open an actual appeal to the Commissioner Appeals for you, so you can actually see the intricacies, how the things work. Just give me a few minutes. Okay, I'm just choosing which one to open. Just give me a minute. I'll be with you in a second. In a few minutes, not second. Response to notice, power of attorney. Okay, this is the verbal argument. This is the index, memo of appeal, grounds, order, acknowledgement, CPR, power of attorney. So we just need the memo of appeal. Okay, this one looks good. Meanwhile, you can have a look. If there are any questions, I'll respond to them while opening the files.
We have a couple of questions. Starting with Muhammad Yusuf, Usman Yusuf, sorry. Why there is one final deadline for filing of tax returns? Many extension encourages late filing and promote valid expectation of further extension.
Osman, the reason is it's a never-ending race. They give the extension that, okay, there has been a culture, people will file, but there has to be an end, especially when the next tax year starts. Or how would you end that? Otherwise, people would be filing appeal for 10 years in arrears, right? So there has to be a cutoff line, and frankly, I believe the government has a very, very, very relaxed cutoff line where they give, as you have rightly said, extensions after extensions after extensions after extensions. So, but when the next tax year starts and when statutory they, as per statute, they have to issue the active taxpayer list, then that's about time that they have to think about it. Huh?
Well, Sir Aziz, is there any time limit by which a commissioner must dispose of an appeal?
Yes, there is, and we did cover that. I'll repeat it for you if you missed that. 120 days generally and 60 days extension with reasons recorded in writing. So a total maximum of 180 days.
Shahid Kareem, are commissioners sympathetic to all appeals or more favorable to experienced tax practitioner like CA?
Well, the commissioner is not relative of anyone, so they normally are supposed to decide on merit. But what I can tell you is the commissioner appeal is someone who used to be an FPR official normally. So you can see when they have worked in a particular environment, and if we are talking in practical sense, then definitely you can understand where their sympathies would lie.
Hussain Hadi, my question related to taxpayer profile, such that due to changes in CNIC details, same needed to be reflected in taxpayer profile. So what would be the procedure?
Not relevant to today, my dear. Send me a message on LinkedIn.
Muzaffar Sheikh, in my personal experience of appeal, Commissioner Appeal ordered that case is resent to hear again as concerns of complainant not fulfilled, etc. So recomply whole case again.
Hang on, I missed you. Can you repeat that for me, please?
Sure. In my personal experience of appeal, Commissioner Appeal ordered that case is resent to hear again as concerns of complainant not fulfilled, etc. So recomply whole case again. My question is that how can or what can be done with that same commissioner who have strong consent over previous ordered, or how can he change his opinion?
Well, this is something that we normally refer to as a remand back, and I explained this while talking about it. But since you are talking specifics, I think the best way to proceed is send me a message on LinkedIn, the specific details, and I'll respond you there. And if need be, we'll speak on call.
Shahid Kareem, is appeal to commissioner not conflicted? Order passed by their colleagues. What's your insight? Do in general they decide on merit?
You are asking dodgy questions. Okay. Well, the thing is this, that as I previously said, there are unfortunately certain things and certain ways that things are done. Okay. But if you are on top of your game, you are prepared fully, then it becomes so much more difficult for anyone to give a decision against you. Okay. I hope that answers. You have to
Mohammed
understand
Ijaz.
that here, being in formal capacity and especially on ACCA's forum, it is a bit difficult. We can't say many things which we are not supposed to say. So we try to give you a hint, and we try to be as much frank as possible and explain the practical intricacies to you. However, when specifically asking specific scenarios or things that are not supposed to be said on air, then it is always better that you should contact in person or on social media. It's not like I'm saying that, okay, after the session, I won't be accessible to you, but I'm going to the other extent of saying I will be accessible to you. So make use of that. Next one.
Otib Nazir, can you send out sample of the appeals?
Samples of appeal? What do you mean?
Okay, moving on. Zain bin Tariq, maybe not relevant to today's session, but can you please tell what is the final decision regarding Tier 1 retailers regarding online integration?
That has been extended to 30th April now. Okay, now I'm gonna be sharing the screen again. Let's go through the practical template first so that you can have an actual feel of how the things work, and then we'll take it from there. Okay? Okay, guys, can you see my screen now? Just write yes if you can so I can proceed. Okay, everyone is saying yes. Fantastic. Okay, guys, first things first. So first of all, you'll have something like this index. Always do that as a professional, although it's not a requirement per se, but it's the good practice and it's done professionally. So you can see there's an index that an appeal has been filed in front of a Commissioner Inland Revenue Appeals, whichever jurisdiction. In this case, it was Commissioner Appeals 2. Then you would have the appellant details here. I've taken that out obviously for confidentiality purpose, but just like we have the respondent details here, you would have the appellant, normally yourself or the client details here. And in this particular appeal, what we initially had Memo of Appeal, which was 2 pages long, then Ground of Appeal, which was 2 pages long, then the order under Section 122, Subsection 1, the revised assessment, which was, mashallah, 9 pages long, detailed order. Then we had a notice under Section 138(1) of the coercive measures, which was 1 page long. We attached the acknowledgement of income tax return that was submitted, the income tax return for the tax year in consideration, which was 2015, the power of attorney authorizing us to represent this client, and the bank challan for the appeal fee of 1,000 rupee. And then here, as counsel to the appellant, you or your co-counsel, all of them would sign this. So that is basically the first thing, the index. Does it make sense? Any questions you can ask now, or I'll proceed on to the other subcomponent.
Amara's question, can these appeals be prepared by an ACCA in the capacity of
Hold on the
AR?
questions. Hold on the questions. We'll answer them. If you have any query about the forms that I'm showing right now, just ask questions about them. After I've shown this appeal format, then I'll answer the other questions. Okay, no one. So let's move on. Then we have the Memo of Appeal. So this is the Memo of Appeal, the appeal form. It's largely still the same. This was in practice when this particular appeal was filed. So an appeal under Section 127 shall be in the following form and verified in the manner indicated, form of appeal to Commissioner. So this was to the Commissioner Appeal, Unit 3 of Lahore. The amount of fee paid is entered here. The date on which the appeal fee was paid is mentioned. The amount of tax demand was taken out, and there was no date of payment, but amount of tax demand has been taken out for confidentiality. The tax year under consideration of this memo was 2012. I've basically taken different items from different clients, so nobody is uncomfortable with their, although I've tried to take their details out too. Then we had the name of the client here, and it was a company, so this was bold and ticked. Name or address of appellate representative, our address was mentioned. I personally represented this case, so my details were mentioned here. Obviously, the correspondence address was the same as ours, so it was mentioned name of the commissioner, Sadia Sadaf Gilani, which by the way became a very good acquaintance after this appeal, and she has currently been appointed to the board, mashallah. Um, so the form was filled, and then we had this verification done. Again, we have taken out the client details. The managing director of the company actually signed this form for us, and here was his CNIC, who I've also taken out, and then this memo was submitted. So no, I don't want the changes to be saved. So after that, we had the grounds of appeal. This is basically the crux, the heart of any appeal. You can't tell anyone one size fit all grounds of appeal, because it always matter on the nature, the merit of the case. You have to actually see which section you are addressing, what is the nature of the business, what is the scenario, what are the sub tendencies to it, what is the existing case law, what is the taxation law covering that, and then you create the grounds of appeal keeping in lieu of that all. So here you can see the appellant details have also been taken out, like in other forms. You have the respondent details, then the ground of appeal state. Okay, I'll show you that, especially uh, because we have so many members who are either new to this or are planning to start, so that you have an idea how the grounds can be formed. So this is just legal jargon. This is how it's stated: respectfully, Shwet, that the impugned assessment order dated falana falana passed by the respondent is unlawful, having no legal force in the eye of the law, and is contrary to the facts and circumstances of the case. That the respondent had imposed the undue tax liability in the unilateral revised assessment and the impugned order, contrary to the facts and circumstances of the case. Copy of the impugned order is attached as Annex B. That the respondent has neither provided proper opportunity of being heard to the appellant, nor served upon any show cause notice to him. Hence, the impugned order lacks lawful force, being an ex parte order. That notice of hearing under section 177 of the Income Tax Ordinance was not served at all, in the absence whereof the proceedings against the appellant has been vitiated, and the action of the learned officer disregards the principle of natural justice as embedded in Audi Altrum Paltrum, that it is a well settled principle of natural justice that nobody can be condemned unheard. Reliance is placed on these decisions of the higher courts, appeals, and the tribunals, that the findings of the respondent are against the facts. So basically, what we did in this appeal was, firstly, we stated about the order, about that the order is not correct. Then we said we were not given any chances to present our client, and basically it's ex parte decision which is not lawful and needs to be set aside. The technical requirements of the proceeding under the law were not met, and then we gave some judgments for the commissioner to rely upon. Then we even went further, that the applicant even otherwise did not apply the judicious mind. We gave some specifics, etc., etc., that the assessment is based on assumption and surmises, that this may have happened, that may have happened, which is not legal. We again gave case laws to place reliance on. Then we mentioned that the valid requirement for issuing the valid assessment order under section 122 subsection 1 and 122 subsection 5 were also not met. So procedures were vitiated, so the order is not valid, etc., etc. And something that I mentioned to, I think, Amara and another person who asked, that we also did not receive the copy of the hearing notices, and we even applied for the impugned order, but were only issued that very later. Anyway, so based on this, then you finally mention your prayer. So in view of the facts narrated supra mean above, it is humbly prayed on behalf of the appellant that the impugned order passed by the respondent dated falana, and we just went extra careful, although you don't need to mention this, and all subsequent orders under section 138(1) of ITO 2001 being devoid of any legal sanctity of warrant whatsoever contrary to the facts of the case and applicable laws should be annulled or cancelled ab initio in the hands of justice along with any compensation or remedy deemed appropriate for the undue stress and harassment caused under the provisions of the income tax ordinance. So these were the core ground of appeals. And then you also need to have this certificate rule 12 that a copy was delivered to the relevant officer. So we as the authorized representative, there was the client detail here, but I removed that just in the interest of keeping their details confidential. And then you get a sign and stamp from the relevant officer's office here as the acknowledgement that they have received a copy of the appeal. And then this was the power of attorney that we got our client to sign that we were representing them. And this was actually a signed copy with the legal ticket stamp on it, was fixed on it, was actually enclosed along with the appeal, and this was the index based. So guys, now you have seen how an actual appeal looks like in the real world. So we are still left with about 18 minutes, and I think we have done pretty well today to cover the core areas of the process, and you have also seen how these things are done. So now is a good time to ask any questions that you may have. Nizam, before you ask the question, I am not sure whether I get the time in the end, so I would like to thank few people, the entire ACCA team, especially Nizam, who is helping us conduct this session. I would also like to thank Ali, who is an ACCA member. He is also the chairman liaison committee of Lahore Tax Bar, the current one, and he is also a partner in our firm for the audit and internal audit and statutory audit side. He looks after all that and supervises the teams too. He actually helped me put these things, and I had some issues with the internet setup, which was very critical because all of this was being conducted on internet. So just a shout out to you too, Ali, if you are attending the session. Thank you. Nizam, thank you, and thanks to the entire team. Now I'm all ready for the last session of questions. So let's answer them.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, Zishan Majid, is index is in ITR?
So Zishan is
question, I don't
asking,
know.
is index in the income tax return? Zishan, ITR is the abbreviation of income tax return, which we covered in yesterday's session. Today we are covering the filing of an appeal to Commissioner Appeal, and for that I've shared with you 3 set of documents in addition to the presentation. The Income Tax Ordinance 2001, it has an index and its abbreviation is ITO. The Income Tax Rule, which has an index. We don't normally refer to it as ITR, but perhaps that's what you refer to. Okay, so yeah, there is an index in the ITR income tax rule. Zishan said, yes, I was asking about that. So that answers you. You can also ask Amara's question.
She has 2 questions. First, grounds of appeal are made on stamp paper or company letterhead.
You can make them on your firm's letterhead too. You only need to have a stamp paper or a legal stamp affixed on the power of attorney.
Second question.
Hang on. Or any other documents, such as if you are accompanying any affidavit or if you are accompanying any statement on oath, they need to be affixed on a stamp paper, or they can be on a plain paper, but then the stamp need to be affixed on that. As far as the grounds of appeal are concerned, there is no such requirement, so you can do that on your firm's letterhead. Yes.
Okay, the second question, can these appeals be prepared by an ACCA in the capacity of AR, or is it necessary to get these made by a lawyer?
Okay, Amara, that's a very interesting question. Well, we worked very hard, and now we are proud to tell you that ACCAs can serve as authorized representatives. So we do advise get membership for your local tax bar. Okay. So by virtue of being an ACCA member, you can now get their membership too, and then you can file these appeals to the Commissioner Appeal and the Appellate Tribunal. And when you can file these appeals, this means you can also prepare them. Okay, next one.
How the fee for appeal is paid? Bilal Ansar.
Oh, that's a very good question, Bilal. You create a challan online from FPR's website and pay that at any of the authorized branches. Simple, nice and easy. Next one.
What is the percentage of appeal being successful against the commissioner order? Yusuf, Usman Yusuf.
Usman, can you unmute Usman? I would like him to ask the question
Surely,
himself.
sir.
Thank you.
Usman, you may go ahead with your question. Starting now.
What is the percentage of appeal being successful?
Can you get the mic closer? Your voice is distorting.
Sir, I have the mic, but
Assalamu
I
alaikum.
don't know why my voice is. Wa alaikum salam, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum. I am fine, sir.
Are you enjoying
my
the session?
question is that, yeah, why
Okay,
not, sir? They
great.
were very helpful.
Please go ahead, ask your question.
Sir, what is the percentage? Mostly, in what cases should we go for the appeal, and what is the percentage that our appeal gets successful? So can we get this in for us?
Okay, before I answer this question, Usman, are you a practitioner or are you asking from the perspective of a businessman or an employee?
I'm asking about as a business, or you can say as an employee.
Okay. Thank you, Usman. I'll answer your question now. Okay, Usman has asked this question: against which kind of cases should we go to the Commissioner Appeal to file an appeal? And what is the percentage of being successful against the Commissioner's order, not Commissioner Appeal, the FPR official's order? Okay, now against which kind of cases should you go really depends. It's a judgment call. As a professional, you know that where you are standing. Are you on strong footing or are you on weaker footing? If you believe you are being done unjust, then you also do a cost benefit analysis and take a decision that, okay, we want to file an appeal in this regard. Again, it depends on every scenario and would differ case to case. Secondly, FPR does not release any figures of the percentage of successful appeals, but being in practice, we have a fair idea. I can share about our firm, MLCC, and being ACCA members, you would feel very proud, as this is the pioneer ACC practicing and legal firm in Pakistan. We haven't lost a single appeal at the appellate tribunal to date. So we eventually end up winning all our appeals at that level. So in our case, by the grace of Almighty, the success rate is Alhamdulillah 100%. But generally, different people say different things. So it's a mix and match. You can say it can range. Again, a disclaimer: there's no specific figure, but people say as low as 30 and as high as 70. And I've shared about our firm. So I hope that answers you. Next one.
Shahid Kareem, for local case laws, what is the good source?
The best source is, I always recommend, rather than any book, start with the actual document that we have just gifted you. For example, today, go through the Income Tax Ordinance and the Income Tax Rule, go through the Sales Tax Act, the rules, go to YouTube channel. All our lectures are there. I think right now on my channel about 70-80 hours lecture on taxation are uploaded. So during this quarantine times, you can use this time as a blessing and actually enhance your technical skills. The best way to do that is when you listen to the lecture, they are unprecedented lecture. Like we have covered every single section of the ordinance. Yes, it's a bit old and we are planning to redo that, but still it is very helpful because the changes have not been that much since then. We will still plan to do it, but that is a resource that is available absolutely free right now. So I would suggest you make best use of that. The way to do, which I recommend, is when you play the lecture, listen to it. Before that, go through 5 to 7 sections. Then listen to the lecture. Then again read the section. Write your notes. If you don't understand anything, write it separately. Then connect with me on LinkedIn. Inshallah, that would give you very good results. Once you have gone through all those lectures, then ask me and I'll guide you what should you do as a next step. But this is the first step that you should do if you want to develop your taxation expertise. Next one.
Usman Yusuf, to start practice, how ACCA practicing certificate helps in promoting business.
How ACCA?
Start practice, how ACCA practicing certificate helps in promoting business.
Usman, there is no ACCA practicing certificate in Pakistan at the moment. It was launched and Alhamdulillah, we got the first one. But then instead, a certificate of registered practitioners was put in place. So that is the way how you do things right now. You register with ACCA on the certificate of registered practitioner, and ACCA resources of registered practitioners are available at your disposal. Then if you want to do taxation practice, you get registered with your local tax bar and then you start doing your practice. I hope that answers the question. Amara,
okay,
you are asking
Amara
so many questions that Nizam is jumping over your question. So I'm going to ask your question to myself. Amara has asked, Amara, that was on a lighter note. Don't worry. He is not like that. Amara says, comment, I have already given an interview to Chief Commissioner to become a registered tax practitioner at FPR. What's done is done now, Amara, but why do you want to go to a lower rank? I shouldn't say lower as per se, but that's how it's treated practically. The interview is done for something known as ITP, Income Tax Practitioner. Being an ACCA member, you don't need that. You can simply register with the local tax bar and start practicing. Anyway, if you have done that, that's fine. Next one, please.
Actually, I'm cleansing all the questions as they come in.
Okay. Hang on, Amara had a follow-up question there. Let me just answer that too. Amara said, in addition to that, do we need to obtain tax law bar membership? Well, even if you are ITP, it's a good idea to get the tax bar membership. I would always recommend that. I would even say don't wait for the chief commissioner's approval or anything. Just simply register with your local tax bar and start practicing. If you need any guidance, you can always connect. No issue. G, next one.
Osman Yusuf, how to register with local tax bar. Your guide will be helpful for many.
Usman, every tax bar has a bit of difference in their local process, but largely it's pretty simple. You go get the membership form, you fill it, enclose your ACCA membership form, pay them their fee. Some of them do an interview, some don't, and then follow up with the process and you get registered. If you want information about any specific tax bar, send me a LinkedIn message. I'll be more than happy to guide. Next one.
Okay, we have two questions on part-time practice. Is it possible to practice tax law part-time? We are tied up our finance-related jobs, but really wanted to learn more with advanced taxation. Abdul Ghani Ansari. If yes, can you please guide which firms allow this sort of facility?
Everything that you can conceive of is possible, Abdul, but you have to see why you want to do something, whether a career change or to support you, and what is the best fit. If you are busy in your job, can you do justice to an area which is an entire career in its entirety doing just part-time? I always say try to become a specialist, someone with excellent skills, rather than, as they say, jack of all, master of none. So that is something you have to do. If you want to do that to learn more about taxation to help you in your existing role, then perhaps taking up some courses first and going through your own self-learning would be a better way than simply starting a part-time role. Normally, the firms don't really allow part-time role, but this ongoing COVID-19 situation is changing a lot of things. So previously, people were like, you can't work from home in certain areas. Now everyone is almost bearing a few areas, making arrangements to work from home. So things have changed, and I envision that our workspaces would be different after this crisis is over, inshallah, than it was before. So who knows, firms might start allowing that. Normally any good firm would want to have you at their disposal full time, because it's not really a comfortable situation to be in. You have to understand the client are trusting their most sensitive data information with serious consequences for their reputation, for their finances, and otherwise. So similarly, all good firms also want to put in sufficient safeguards. But as I've mentioned, the work from home trend is now changing things. So it might be a possibility with good firms in the future too. Next one.
I hope that answers the question to Wasis as well. Here, the same question. Dishan Majid, sir, how should we handle a notice from FPR? Please guide the way we should follow.
Zishan, I have discussed this before, but I'll repeat for you. What you need to do is see what is the merit of the case, what section applies, what record you have, whether you actually did a violation or not, what defense you have, and then decide whether you want to file an appeal. If you want to file an appeal, first go notice can refer to a notice to enforce the decision, or notice can also be a notice that FPR is starting the proceeding. If it is a notice to enforce, I've told you what to do. If it is a notice to start the proceeding, after your preparation and seeing where you stand, you should then go meet the relevant officer, share with them the facts and figure, and take a written answer and submit that formally. Verbal is nothing in the land of taxation. So I hope that answers your question, and we have answered all the questions, Nizam, right?
We have two questions. Okay, Zishan Majid, further before the processing, right?
Okay, just ask me the two questions quickly. We have 2 minutes left. I want to answer them.
Sure. As per section 122, subsection 2, does the commissioner give show cause notice first? Faisal Aziz.
Next one.
Being an ACCA member and looking for specialization, how should one can proceed to be an ITP? Junaid Iqbal.
Okay, the section 122 question, not relevant. Send me a message on LinkedIn, or you can read the section 122 yourself. I've given you the entire ordinance. Junaid, being an ACCA member, why would you need to be an ITP when you can be a practitioner without that? So I don't know. I can say I wouldn't want to do that. You should rather invest in your skill, knowledge. And then if you are not aware, that's a different thing. If you are aware of the route that's available to you, why waste your time, energy, and effort? Sayyid Muhammad Wasi Hussain Kazmi, last question of the day. Sir Umar, I have a suggestion regarding another session of webinar. Will it be possible to arrange a session on advanced Excel data analytics in addition to EPSM module? Sure, we'll note your suggestion, but Shah Saab, this was already done and the recording is available on ACCA's Vimeo channel. And I think it's also available on ACCA's GoToWebinar channel. So the time is almost up. I would like to thank you all for your participation today, and I hope you learned a few good things today. You learned some additional things today, and these would be of benefit to you in your futures, in your careers. If you have any questions, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I would strive to answer you. It might take a few days, it might take some time, but I will respond to you, inshallah. All the best to you, my best wishes to you, and thank you all for attending today's session. And as I promised to you, these are my social media and contact details where you can contact me to. uh, and we got a lot of thank yous and have safe stay. Yes, all of you, please stay at home unless you have an emergency to go out. If you do go out, look at all the precautions, and please take all the safety measures and government announcements seriously. Do your part and stay optimistic, stay positive, invest in yourself, and use this time wisely. So the last question of the day is Ahmad Qasim Sahab. I had an experience of 10 years, mashallah, in audit and tax, but I moved to industry for more financial reasons. Now I have a chance to join the firm on partnership basis. Your advice required. Ahmed, it depends on a lot of factors, your personal preferences, career goals, circumstances, offer that made, where you are based, all those things. Send me a message on LinkedIn and I'll coordinate a time to actually speak on call with you. And I think that would be the best way to answer this. Very practical session. Thanks a lot. Stay blessed. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good day and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, everyone.